listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, we managed to track down the mayor, and he's going to come and tell us all about it. What's going on with Burleson?
That could be a short conversation.
Yeah, all about it. Well, we'll touch on the latest controversy, that being the trash issues, but that's behind us apparently. And
Yes.
So we'll go on to the next crisis of some sort. We can talk about some of the things that are going on in Austin, and even nationally that are affecting municipalities and whatever else. You know, we can talk about the whole thing, because right now, would you say it's a quiet period for the council, or is it pretty normal?
I got one of the greatest councils I've ever had. I really, the whole group is working together. It's friendly. When you do have problems and you've got that kind of relationship, it's a lot easier to deal with.
And it's true, because, you know, I talk with Victoria, you know, about as often as do you, and off the air, she's very complimentary, you know, so we're not talking about this is some public relations thing, you know, we're going to, you know, make nice to the public. No, she said this is what she wanted to do when she ran for city council, is this kind of stuff. I mean, who wants to deal with the trash issue? Well, apparently she does, you know, because she likes governance, not.
Well, when we get into the trash conversation, our heart was in the right place on this.
That's part of what it is.
That was not. There was nothing. There was no hidden agenda on this.
Well, that's what a city council should do, is every 3 or 4 years, if you got a long-term relationship with some vendor, you need to check it out, see if it's still valuable or viable. That's the way it works. You know, when I was down in Austin doing that stuff for the State Board for Teacher Certification, the law of Texas was that we go over it every 4 years, and not in one big piece, because you'd be there for a month. But basically, they would just break it down into small chunks, and part of the meeting was just reviewing this section. Is it still good? Do we need to revise it? Whatever, or how do we need to revise it if there's been a change in legislature, which we did a couple of times. So that's the nature of governance.
And we got a great city manager that looks down the road. We're not getting blindsided on anything.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because if you were, then you'd be hearing a different conversation.
Absolutely. Making decisions under distress duress is not a good thing.
But let's run through the sponsors real quick. We'll talk a little about that. But also, you know, I've been keeping track of what's going down in Austin, particularly with the property taxes. You know, our friend Greg Cooper is much more knowledgeable. He's going to be on in about 3 weeks. And so by that time, most of the bills will have been filed and worked upon.
That guy's amazing. I mean, he loves to research.
He does. It's his hobby, I guess. But he comes in the show and gets all this data, and I'm like, okay, you know,
a little bit of overload there too.
Yeah. Well, he's serious about it, no doubt
He's
about it.
a great guy.
But speaking of great guys, we're talking about Otto at our place.
I saw a new building.
Yes, right. You drove by it? Yeah.
Crowley's got an our place.
Our place too. It's opening in about, I'm going to say, he doesn't know for sure. So I'm not going to, say he knows for sure, but it's a couple of months, maybe 6 weeks. There's lots of little details you got to take care of. Yeah. You know, they came to him for that. They used to be a Chicken Express.
Well, I can understand why.
Well, they wanted, and he was going to put in just a hamburger place, but Fred's is coming right across the street from us here.
Freddy's?
Not Freddy's, not the country.
Fred's.
It's just Fred's. Okay. Yeah, it's a. I don't know if it's the same ownership. Probably is, of a Fred's Hamburgers in Fort Worth, which is pretty well known to the hipster crowd. Let's say I've been there once and with my kid, and
you a hipster?
No, they thought either I was an old man or a narc, but but anyway, it's coming in pretty soon, and it's going to be. I don't know how limited the menu is going to be, but it's going to have all the favorites. Put it that way. You're going to have not just hamburgers, but the chicken fried and the breakfast and the whole thing.
Oh, I got my breakfast I order. I'm locked in.
Speak to him.
Everybody wants me to pick my favorite restaurant, that's not fair,
that's
because
not
I've
fair.
got my favorite at every one of them.
Well, it's like favorite for not just different type of foods, but what you're in the mood for, and that's what we really liked about it. Also, like Gina's, you can roll the next slide there. What I liked about Gina's is that we really needed a place kind of like this, where it's got that kind of atmosphere. You can go get a pizza and a beer and watch the ball game and whatever else. That's where I do most of my my business for the radio station.
And
or
I'm
for the
glad Aldo
podcast.
took it, kept the name.
You know, it's interesting we were talking about that, and there was some discussion whether or not to change the name or not, but he stuck with the name. I think out of respect for the tradition of what Gina's was for so long and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was lucky to be at the 50th anniversary.
It's been a while. It was a long time between visits for me when it was in the old establishment, but I'm in Gina's.
Well, it was getting to a point where on the booths,
yeah,
they were so form-fitting booths that it got a little tough to get out of sometimes.
Yeah. Well, but like I say, it's a good place to do business because it's, not too loud, and the help is, really good, and the food's good. So that's where I did some business last week with a couple of the sponsors. Also, thank you to Wild Cigar. They had a big Super Bowl party and all this other stuff. They're just cranking along. I'm sure, hey, take the wife for Valentine's Day to Wild Cigar and light up a stogie with her. It's,
I can see Nancy with a cigar.
Yeah, well, Robin, I could just see her, with a highball and a cigar. That'd be fine, right? But anyway, but it's not. It's the thing about it is, it really, they have a really nice humidor for a lot of people and they come a long way for these things. I mean, it is
Really?
a lot. Oh yeah, they'll get business from out of the county because their cigar selection is that well known now, and it's also a good place to do business because it's quiet, and they have a conference room if you want to do business there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it's about you see about 12 people, I think. They have the patio, and it's a nice bar, and as opposed to some Roadhouse or anything like that. It ain't Cooter Brown's. Have you ever been in there?
I haven't.
I can't imagine you in there, but
Why?
Are you a
prude?
biker? Are you a biker? You one of the bandits? I don't know. I mean, it's.
No, I was a bouncer in a bar.
Oh, how nice!
That was a long, long time ago.
Did you put that on your Church of Christ deacon resume?
People don't argue with me.
Yeah, well, that's true there. But
that didn't last very long.
I can't imagine, you as a bouncer, because just that atmosphere.
Well, no, that's more political. I mean, if you do it right, that's more political. You can talk anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, bud. Think about this.
Yeah, okay.
We don't want to go this
But you don't
way.
have to worry about that at Wild Cigar. It's not that kind of clientele. It's free, it's a class joint. I walk in there about once a month, do a little customer care, and there's people there with their laptops doing business. It's, it's a good place to do all that.
You know what's really sad about that whole thing about where I worked?
Uh-huh.
That was 50 years ago.
Really? Gosh. Was it in this area?
I've gotten smarter since then. Okay.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, it's a great place I don't know if I could work in a bar. I know Robin would have some comments about that if I did now. Also, speaking of which, Southern Jim, speaking of Robin, not speaking of bars, Gail, speaking of Robin. All right. It's, Valentine's. So have you taken Miss Nancy to pick up something there?
I've got her a gift.
Good for you.
It'll sound insensitive, but it's what she wanted.
Okay. What was that?
Well, she wanted a new desk chair.
Okay.
And she buys by price and I don't, so I went and got her one.
Well, okay. It's better than buying her a skillet or something like that. Actually, one Valentine's Day, I did buy Robin a skillet. I'd bought her a real gift, but I gave her an iron skillet, and she's like, "Oh, thanks." We just as a joke about.
Let me tell you something. I am so blessed to have a wife that is very common sense and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. She doesn't spend money. I have to make her spend money on herself. So I know a lot of people don't have that blessing. Okay,
Robin's pretty frugal. I don't worry about our budget because, and if she's going to spend something like $70 on a couple of pairs of work clothes, she'll tell me. And if it's something that's not necessary, she'll ask, "Can we afford it? Is it okay? We'll change the budget," that kind of thing. Also, John Williams over at Old Pro Roofing, 817-734-2756. I believe he won an award for one of the salesmen of the year for your Old Pro. I don't doubt it. He's very sincere. He comes to your house. You could trust him. He's going to tell you what your roof is needing or not needing, and that's, he's not some cowboy chucking the truck kind of thing. These are home folks here over in Old Town. And so they want to maintain their reputation. So John checks my roof out about once a year, and he'll say, your roof's fine, or there's a few shingles loose and I hammered them down, or you might want to start the process. and he'll help you with the insurance companies, which some are more difficult to work with than others. The one I have, Texas Farm Bureau, is very good, so I don't have to worry about it. But anyway, 817-734-2756. And yesterday we had Jeff Kelly on the show talking about real estate, and not just in Burleson and Johnson County. He sells quite a bit outside the city limits of Burleson. So at 817-781-0546 or Jeff at jeffkellyreally.com. He won an award as well. So I didn't even really talk much about it. And I talked about it when I saw him, at Gina's last week. We were visiting, and he's, that's nice. He wasn't like, puffed up about it, but it was nice. Does a really good job. I'm sure y'all have to keep track of what's going on with the demographic trends, real estate trends, whatever, because, we're still growing. Are we growing quite as fast as we were at one point?
Not right now, but it'll pick back up.
I think so, too.
We've had permits have dropped off, sales taxes down a little bit. We've had to adjust our budget a little bit.
Right.
And I've got a great staff, city manager and the deputy city managers. They've got it under control.
Well, I've come to know Tommy Ludwig from the Burleson Opportunity Fund, right? Which we both were on. And we'll both be on the meeting tomorrow, as I remember. Some of us will. And then, okay, all right, well, good. You're doing busy stuff, you're keeping the city under control, But anyway, team effort. There's, but back to Jeff, he's of course very knowledgeable, but he says a lot of the growth in the communities are in Johnson counties and Godley and Joshua too, particularly Godley and Venus, so maybe that taking some of our growth away. I don't know. And also Michelle over at Hot Works, get yourself an infrared workout, 11 different workouts. So if you do something that, keeps your attention. That's the whole thing about working out is if you don't vary it up a bit, it gets pretty boring. And so you go over there and you do one type in your one visit and another type your next visit. And I was asked, isn't this mostly just for females? And she'll tell you, no, a good percentage for business for men, particularly guys that, do physical jobs and they want to, have an infrared workout to kind of help them with the muscle and joint pains and stuff like that. So she has a pretty good number of male clients as well. Also, Local Life on the magazine cover is Jeff Kelly, along with the Wethington Agency. Tiffany I'm sure you already have your copies now, and I don't know what her next months will be, but this one is about the Wethington Agency. Hey, is that you?
Afraid so.
Okay. Anyway, Local Life magazine.
I thought somebody was asking a question.
LocalLifeTX.com. Well, if they have a question, send it here, put it on the screen.
Try and just turn it off.
Okay. And lastly, Burleson Buzz. That's second person I met at Gina's last week. We keep up with the local blog news. I think his next issue is an interview with yours truly. We talk about the radio station, all this other stuff. So he interviewed me for the next edition. All right, let's talk about the trash issue real quick because it's over now. But
it's over.
And some people are like, why are they even bothering? Well, that's what a city council is supposed to do is maintain vigilance over these deals because the deals you make with vendors, deals you make with anybody you're doing business with, because if you didn't, a couple of years from now, 3 years from now, when the situation's changed and you got a contract that's not benefiting the city, you'd be hearing about it then too, I'd imagine.
We do. And the bottom line here is bag pickup, manual pickup like we're doing right now. It's going to be a thing of the past. We really don't know when. We're covered to 2029 because we have a contract with Waste Container. But the deal was to save some money for the citizens. Okay? Our heart was in the right place. People weren't ready for it. So we voted just to stick with our contract till 2029. That doesn't mean this isn't going to come up again.
Oh, sure it will.
And we have to get ahead of it to a point that we can allow about a year to a year and a half for the vendor that we do sign a contract with to get the right trucks. So there's a lot to play into this. I think the issue that when you're negotiating, both parties have to have some kind of timeline or urgency of some sort. we were negotiating with Waste Container, and they had us locked in till 2029. They had no reason to really give us a deal.
Mm-hmm.
They really didn't. So the decision to put it off until we got closer, realizing that they could lose our business at the end of the contract,
Mm-hmm.
that was a plus. That was more fair playing ground on both sides. Okay?
Right.
But when it came down to it was going to be very expensive for the second trip to pick up 2 times a week. We had an issue with a lot of people, not the commercial people, didn't want to be locked in on one provider.
Right. I did not know if that was the case. I did know that they could find their own, but I just didn't know if it was because they were excluded or they just chose not to be included. But there you are.
Well, the reason commercial comes into a city's program on their trash is that gets the price down for the residential. Mm-hmm. That's the main reason right there. When your commercial people within the city limits is obligated to go to this one vendor, that's revenue for them, and they're willing to adjust the price of the residential side to get the overall contract. When the time comes up, that's going to be on the table whether they like it or not. And when we run out of bag pickup, whoever's on council at that time is going to have to make that decision. And there's going to be limited decision choices.
Right. I just, people got really worked up about it, and I guess that's great, but that's what governing a city can happen. I'd rather have these kind of debates, even if it gets a bit emotional, I suppose, than, trivial stuff. I mean, this is what cities do.
It's not trivial. It's really not.
No, rather than trivial. I mean,
long term, there was issues about HOA, where you're going to put them. It's a valid. You get babies in a home, and they're putting it in a trash can that's going to be there for a week. Mm-hmm. All of that. It's not trivial. And I tell you, I really had some great. I called everybody back that sent emails to the mayor's contact, to the council contact email. And it was great conversations. When I hung up, they might not like the answer, but at least they understood where we were at.
Well, what was I trying to say? Not that this trash issue is trivial. This is what cities do. I'd rather have these kind of debates rather than, silly debates, which, sometimes cities have to endure. But this is what a city debates about: is trash, streets, water. Jackie Jones says, appreciate the phone call, man. So I guess
I did talk to Jackie.
Well, and so I'm just saying that, people, I think sometimes thinks, when they think about governing a city, they don't think about these kind of routine decisions and how people will react to them. And, I live out in the country a little bit. I have to pay for my pickup, and I have choices and such as that. But, I was kind of following this from a distance a little bit. But anyway, now that that's resolved, what's the next big issue? Is it the streets? Because that's always an ongoing situation, or is it
streets is a big problem right now? Yeah, with property tax and trying to keep the property tax low.
Mm-hmm. Well, that might not be an issue much longer, will it? If the state of Texas has its way.
What are you talking about?
But they want to eliminate the property tax. I know there's several bills out there.
Well. Yeah, there's several, and I'm going to be going to Austin to talk to people about possibilities. Mm-hmm. One of them is not a bill yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, none of them are been even debated hardly yet.
We luckily, I was trying to get the sales tax brought up 1 cent, and started out as public service, public safety. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. And we changed that to send it straight to property tax. That 1 cent in Burleson would have been $15 million. Mm-hmm. Now, why do you want another tax? That's because the concern I have is people that can't afford that property tax. The people that can't afford some things typically financially needs a little bit of help. They're not going to go out and buy expensive meals and stuff of that nature. The people that do can afford that extra 1 cent on the dollar. This is a penny on the dollar. Now, let's go and pick up another situation here. The cash cow that we have in Burleson is our sales tax. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Right.
We're on 35. We're next to Terrence, little food area. They come over here. Our concerts, the staff do a great job bringing people in. So here we have in 2026 is the World Cup's coming.
Right.
There'll be 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
Each game is equal to that of a Super Bowl.
Yes.
You don't think there's not going to be a cash cow there in sales tax?
I think what you're going to have, and maybe when you get closer to that time, you're going to have some people that probably want to stay at these hotels down here because, first of all, Arlington and that area are going to be
they're already booked up. They're already booking up for 2026.
I don't doubt it. So I bet you'll have also like Airbnbs or Verbo or whatever these others going on.
Yeah, short-term rentals and stuff. Yeah,
right.
That's going to be something we have to address.
Right. Now, that can wait one more day, I guess. But I do know that when we're talking about the property tax, Greg Cooper, our friend, is much more conversant than I am, certainly. And
the good thing about he's getting in tune with Austin too.
Yeah. Well,
Helen.
Helen Kerwin and he seem to have a pretty good working relationship. You also are well acquainted with her and with Phil King, our state senator, and I know both of them are on board with elimination of the property tax, and and he's going to be on the show. Greg is in about 3 weeks, and he'll have a lot more information because they're still in the bill submitting time frame, that 60-day period.
Well, we already got to have 1,000 bills ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think there's a possibility that we could get this done in such a way where we get some relief.
Well, every time I mention this, the response to it, whether they like it or don't like it, the response is always, how are we going to make up the revenue? And Greg, if I quote him accurately, basically says, the increase in the consumption tax would be able to be absorbed because people will have more wherewithal to be able to pay it because they're not paying these high property taxes, and you won't have people that are reluctant to buy things because they're afraid of losing their home because of tax issues. And that's a good argument. I'd like to see the details about how that revenue will be replaced, but it will put a very serious burden maybe on communities to generate sales locally, certainly. And Alex Phillips who put that on his tombstone, shop local.
We had a small town, I'm not going to say which one.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to their mayor, told them what I would like to do on the 1 cent increase. Now you got to remember, this is 1 penny on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
This is $1 on the 100.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not talking about and food has already got a lot of tax exemptions. So when you start thinking about this, the mayor was against this. And then on a Friday night, he calls me up and says, that's $800,000 with just the sales tax we have right now. Now, the problem with some of this is just like in education when they had the Robin Hood plan.
Right.
I don't trust Austin. Are they going to take money away from us? And we've got. I got a document the other day from the North Central Texas Council of Governments that in 2035, Johnson County could be 1 million people.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. The way not just we're growing, but Cleburne and Godley and Venus and Joshua and everybody else in Grandview seems to be growing. I don't know much about Alvarado, or Keene, but I see it happening. Here's another thing: if you have a business that's in the city, would they not be tempted to move outside the city limits where they're not subject to city taxes?
You're still subject to. Aren't you going to eat in our town?
Well, I'm talking about the business itself, though. They're not going to be able to you're not going to get the revenue from that business. So let's say we have a restaurant that's right, in city limits, and you
They
raise
still have to
taxes.
charge the sales tax. It don't matter where they're at.
Well, but
We might not get the sales tax.
All right, that's what I'm saying. It's
and that's fine.
But somebody's they'll be paying it, but Burleson won't be getting it. Somebody else will be getting it.
Somebody else will move into that building.
Okay. I hope so.
And here's the deal. It was brought up, if we put 1 more cent on our sales tax, and this is the variable right here. Towns don't have to take this. They can stay at 8 1/4. They don't have to go to 9 1/4. But why would, and so somebody's going to go to Cleveland to eat because they save 1 cent on the dollar?
Well, if I quote Cooper correctly, it's going to be more than 1 cent on the dollar. I mean, the overall
eventually it will. But the purpose of the 1 cent right now is to show Austin the revenue that you can go with just 1 cent. Now, my understanding it's only going to take like 4 cent increase to take care of the growth.
Okay. Well, the numbers he was quoting, and I want to let him quote directly, but they were more than 9 1/4. They were like low teens or like 12, 13.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice not have to worry at the end of the year if you're going to have to pay your property tax?
That's a good argument. I don't have one.
The stress, you're paying a little as you go. If you don't want to pay a lot of taxes, don't go buy the expensive stuff.
Yeah.
The bottom line is at least you have a choice on buying, where on property tax, your valuation is not set by you. You don't have a choice on that. And some of the stuff that Austin's doing is just kicking the can down the road.
Well, that's Mr. Cooper's argument, is that, people will not be quite as reluctant maybe to spend money because they don't have to worry about being kicked out of their home because of a big jump in property taxes. Or you get that, that letter from, Scott Porter, we get them. I got mine about 3 months ago.
If you don't agree with it, you got to go do a protest. You shouldn't have to do that.
It could be a shock, right? It could be a real surprise and an unpleasant one. I've seen other bills that would increase the homestead exemption to like another $40,000 and things of that nature. But, but Helen Kerwin and others, and even her predecessor, Mr. Burns, was in favor of this. They want to get rid of the property tax altogether.
Okay, and let's get this straight. I'm for that too. But what are you going to replace it with?
That's the whole conversation. Every time I ask somebody about that, what do you think of this? Well, it sounds good, and it's always, you can't not spend the money. So there'll be an increase in consumption tax of some sort. You may, in Oklahoma, they have sales tax on groceries. Will that happen here? I don't think initially, but it's going to be a possibility.
A 1 cent increase is a great test run for the future. Right now, we don't have, you think any businessman, and I would think even politicians, knows that you can't end something as big as the property tax situation without a proven backup plan.
Right.
Because if you end the property tax and you go over to this other system, whatever it is, and it doesn't work,
there would be a problem.
Where are you going to go?
New Mexico, because you will have to hide out. You're going to have to go into hiding.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's
they don't have Tex-Mex in Mexico.
I know. I
don't know what that's.
Yeah, I've had some of that. It's not too bad. But if you're going over there thinking it's going to be chili and cheese or whatever Tex-Mex, it's different. A lot of peppers. But anyway, back to the matter at hand.
But do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
If we had just 1 cent on this thing and started learning.
Jackie's asking, I don't understand how we could run the city without paying taxes.
That's right.
What if enough money isn't made to cover costs? And that's her question, and it's a lot of people have that question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And another thing is, it's something, I don't know if it's even a consideration, but when you got that new bakery, the French bakery,
the South Korean bakery with the Paris name.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's
Paris
some marketing there. Yeah. But
I'm not going to figure that out.
But part of it was, I'm sure there were some property tax abatements given by the city, right?
Yeah, and when we do this, it is presented to council on a 5 and 10 year payback. Right. Okay.
But if you don't have that, if property taxes don't exist, you won't have that as an incentive to move to Burleson, right?
You're exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be other factors, but it won't be I would imagine one of the biggest factors, besides being next to I-35 and you have the space and all this, but I'm quite sure that, these new businesses of that size get these abatements. And now if it's no longer an issue about property taxes.
Well, there's too many questions here.
Yeah.
There really is, in the fact that when you have a business, go back to trash. When you want to do 2 pickups, that's more traffic on your road by a 60,000-pound truck.
Irma Crisp. You got to see she's put her maiden name in there, like Hillary Rodham Clinton. Irma Vidic Crisp. It says, how would this impact public school funding, especially with the vouchers coming in? To tell you the truth, I think I'm going to kind of answer this for you in a way for Irma.
Good, because I don't have an answer.
Well, it's because this is not something you have to deal with. It's something that we need to talk to a school representative about. And they're kind of gone quiet. I try to get a response, and they haven't really responded to me. And I wish they would. I'm not trying to call them out. I'm not trying to drop them in the grease or anything like that. But I think they want to keep a low profile through all this.
Our school district, and my wife is a retired teacher. Okay, the school district has these unfunded mandates.
Yes, I got a ton of them.
Over and over and over. They're not teaching anymore. They're babysitting, and my heart goes out to them.
It's a lot tougher than it was when I started. Absolutely.
The things, my opinion, I'm from a small town. The schools have gotten way too big.
Yeah. They're pretty good sized. I remember when I started at high school in 1990, your old friend Terry Ford was principal. And back in that day, I didn't have much trouble with the students because there's still a degree of respect there. But there was always a few knuckleheads. And I would say, hey, Mr. Ford, this guy's giving me some grief. Oh, I know his daddy. I golf with him. I go to church with him. Blah, blah, blah.
I miss those days.
Yeah, they knew everybody. And he said, if he gives him more trash, just let me know. Send him down here. I'll whack him a couple of times, and they'll send him back. And that took care of the problem. Now it's not anything like that. But Irma, we're not trying to avoid your question, but this, as far as it impacting on public schools, that's really not going to.
That's a great question, because I don't think anybody that's wanting to eliminate property taxes has addressed that situation.
Well,
and nobody's addressing the situation. They're trying to find money to give teacher raises, which they should have done last time. I think they did, didn't they?
Nope.
These are the most underpaid individuals that I know, and
they didn't give a raise because the Patrick and crew said, if we don't get our vouchers in these special sessions, we're not going to approve a raise.
No, well, they had 2 separate bills in the House. Mm-hmm. They sent it to good, clean bills. Everybody was for the teachers' raises. Mm-hmm. When it went to the Senate, they put them together, thinking that they could get the vouchers passed by giving the teachers a raise.
Right.
And it didn't work that way. People stood up and said the vouchers was a bad situation.
Well,
I'm not knee deep in it, but there's a lot of things in there that I didn't really care for.
Well, I'm concerned about the vouchers for that situation, and like I said, I've tried to get response, and I just really think that BISD is just like they don't want to get in the mix and antagonize people.
How can they not get in the mix?
Well,
I know they're knee deep in it. It's their revenue. They're going to have to say something. And I'll tell you, the biggest problem we've got is Austin is not doing what's right. Mm-hmm. They're doing what gets them reelected.
Well, I'm going to address that with them. Like I said, I got to be careful. I really don't want to call anybody out, because it's not appropriate. But to use the platform to do that. But I'll see some of them tomorrow, and if it comes up, I say, hey, the other side's doing all the talking. We don't hear from y'all, and there's a lot of support for a voucher. And I don't know if people really realize what it's going to mean, because lot of people think, well, I'm going to get that voucher. I'm going to take my kid, put him in XYZ school, or help me with homeschool and whatever else. But everybody is affected by the quality of the school district.
I agree. But here's
Yeah.
the thing that bothers me the most.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not careful with the way you do this voucher,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have all these schools pop up
Mm-hmm.
that don't care a bit about the kids. They just want that money.
And, these little private schools operate in the back of a garage or something like that, like the charters did, and do sometimes. Second of all is that the way it's structured now, the biggest beneficiaries is not going to be, the typical Burleson citizen. It's going to be the people in Mira Vista who send their kids to, Country Day or Southwest Christian, where I was at. And I
can afford, I heard this, that they can afford the 20,000,
Mm-hmm.
but now they're going to get 10,000?
Well, it's not only that, but I promise you, those private schools who are always digging you for money will raise their rates about 3,000 or 4,000 because they know you have it, and that's going to be the case.
And maybe it's justified. I mean, I don't have all the answers here. Maybe it's justified, but it's sure going to look bad.
Well, if I lived in a school system that was very, very poor, not financially poor, but did a poor job, I'll phrase it that way, I might have a different opinion, but I think BISD does a good job. And if people want to homeschool their kids, I understand, because what most of the people that I know that homeschool are doing so not because they think the schools are trash, but because they want to bring their kids up in a more Christian environment, if you will, or a more spiritual environment, or they have situations where their kids don't function well in a traditional school for health or other reasons. And so I know several people that homeschool, and they're not doing it because they think BHS is a pit of sin. They just think my son or daughter has different needs than what public schools can provide. Okay, I get that. But when we're talking about here with the vouchers in the private schools, the biggest beneficiary is going to be Country Day or somebody like that. Or it'll be some smaller private school that's going to, I don't know, maybe the Nazarene group. And hey, I appreciate what they do, but I don't want, it's not a church state thing with me either. It's just, I don't want Burleson ISD to be negatively impacted by all this, so that's my concern.
I'm a fan of BISD. I really am. They did a great job on my kids. But to go to what Irma is asking here, one of the difference between the city and the ISD is the mayor's elected. If they don't like the tax rate, they can get him out. The superintendent doesn't have that. If he needs to raise it, he raises it. And I'm not saying anything bad here. I'm just saying when they get these unfunded mandates.
They got a bunch too.
And
I don't think people appreciate how much of the budget is mandated.
The administrative, the paperwork involved in these mandates sometimes, the administrative number of personnel has just skyrocketed at BISD. Greg Cooper pointed that out to me.
Yeah, they have. And there's
they
a lot
don't
of
have
reasons.
a choice.
There's some reasons for it. One of those reasons is the state is mandating this. I don't think people realize just how much of that budget is untouchable. It's like 45%. And so when they want to cut the budget at BISD, we're talking about a little more than half the budget's available for that. And then what are you going to cut? It's somebody somewhere, some programs that mean a lot to some people are going to be cut if they had to do that. Plus, but the thing about also raising, you say superintendent can raise a tax. Schools are very, very limited in how high they can raise the tax rate.
But they max out every time.
Well, yes, but that's at one point, I was good friends with a previous financial director for BISD. They kept it kind of below the max. So because they knew that if they raised it past like very less than 1%, I mean, it's like 0.25%, they had to have a tax referendum election. So what they would do is they had this space, and so they could raise revenue not by raising the tax rate, but by the valuations. But now they're maxed out. And so if Dr. Jimerson and the school board want to raise taxes, like say 1.5%, they're going to have to go to the city and get it approved, or the school district rather, which is larger than the city. Last time we did this was in 2012, and it lost by 8 votes. All right, and so there was a lot of people that were very opposed, and you saw what happened in Joshua. They had to go 2 swings at the pitch to get that bond passed, And so it's very difficult to get a positive result from these elections because people feel like they're being taxed already.
It's no bonds. People right now have got the mindset of no bonds, period. I don't care what.
Yeah.
It could be life-saving surgery for a kid. If it's a bond, they don't want it.
Right.
And that's pretty blanket. Not everybody's that way.
Well,
When I go out in the county bond that I was helping with,
yeah.
boy, I got beat up over that one too. But that is the most cost-effective bond that I've ever seen.
And it's incredibly necessary, and in my opinion, because the needs aren't going away. They're going to get more and more acute as we get more and more larger. Yeah. And so it's like, this is what it is to live in a city. But I had a couple of your Joshua colleagues, or at least, I don't know, I had the mayor on, but I had a couple of people on from Joshua that were trying to get the bond passed, and it got personal. They were getting hammered. And, but as far as this, like I said, if you have any influence, I'll see a couple of them tomorrow and I say, hey, I know you're busy. I know it wasn't like they said, no, we don't want to do anything with you, Mr. Allard. It had nothing to do with me. They just said, we're understaffed. It's hard to find people that have the time in their schedule to come on your show. Okay, fine. My feelings ain't hurt because, like I said, it wasn't personal, but the pro-voucher people are doing all the talking. And
not explaining it.
Well, I think they're selling the positive but on the other hand, routine, hey, your kid may be able to go to Trinity Valley or something like that. But there's another part of it. And a second of all, I taught 3 years in a private school, and I had mixed experience, but the education was good. And, they had stuff, but BISD offered so much more. I mean, electives and an AP level classes. I mean, Southwest Christian. Dual enrollment. Well, we had dual enrollment at Southwest Christian. Yeah, and I taught it. But
saved me a lot of money.
Yeah. And they had, it wasn't through, since it was a Christian school, it was through Colorado Christian College. But they didn't have the kind of variety that BISD offers, or particularly high schools. I mean, all these not just advanced placement courses, but specialty courses. And the attitude of, well, hey, I was educated without all this and I'd done good. That might have worked in 1980 when I graduated, but it isn't the case now. And so if we're going to be competitive, this is what it takes to be competitive. And so, yesterday Jeff Kelly said, I asked him a question or I knew the answer to. He said, what is the first thing people ask about? Schools, even those without kids, even those that aren't going to have kids. They'll ask schools, police, and amenities like restaurants, I guess. But they'll say schools first, police right after that, and fire, first responders, I'll put it that way. And then what's in the town. But if the schools aren't there, and the police or in fire and the rest aren't there, it doesn't matter if we had, Disney World over here, they're not going to come. So that's why it's such a critical deal to have good schools, because I don't have kids in the school, but I benefit from it still, by all this growth and by the quality of employees that it produces. Businesses aren't going to move to a town where all the kids are stupid. They're a bunch of bums. So they want to have a school system that produces responsible young people. So that's my sermon for the day.
Fine sermon.
Yeah, fine sermon.
Hallelujah.
Do y'all do that? I thought it was just Baptist.
Oh, we got a handful that does that. Nobody looks at them.
Yeah, we're always like, get those hands down. We're old school Baptist.
I like energy.
I know. It's like don't to suppress the spirit, or else you're going to have a real problem. But are you going down to Austin? You said.
I'm going to start.
All right.
Yeah, there's some people that I've been invited to come talk to, and
like I said,
it needs to be done. They need to have a face there and be held accountable for how they're voting.
Have you ever testified in one of those hearings?
No, Rick Bailey has a lot, and he's
get on the agenda. It's easy. I've done it twice. I've testified for the Sunset Committee twice when I was with that board down in Austin. They wanted to.
How'd you dress?
I put a tie on.
Did you really?
Yes.
Pants?
Oh, damn it! I forgot my pants. Yeah, no, I put on a jacket and I had my only suit. The chair of our group was at the time the Waco superintendent, and I think she retired, and I think she got pulled out of retirement, and I think she's at Waxahachie now. And so she and I and a couple others were testifying at the Sunset Committee, and was ironic was one of the members of the Sunset Committee was Senator Dawn Buckingham, who was formerly on that committee now, and she ran for Senate and was a senator. Now she's a land commissioner. And there's talk and rumors about, John Cornyn looks like he could go down. I don't know. But anyway, she hadn't told me anything like that. But anyway, I went and it's an all-day experience. And let me tell you, you better bring a book or a sack lunch with you.
Well, Commissioner Bailey was telling me about one time, if they don't want to listen to you, they keep moving your speaking time back. And he spoke at 1 a.m. He sat there and waited all day to speak at 1 a.m.
I spoke around 7 a.m.
And there was nobody in the room.
I was supposed to go on a little after lunch, and I went on around after dinner, about 6:30, and all but one of the members were still there, including at the time the guy Brian Birdwell, who was our senator. Now he's next door, I think. And and I don't know how eloquent it was. They didn't sunset us. Because we don't cost a lot of money. We weren't a high priority. And I think Don being on that committee talked him out of sunsetting us. But I've done it. It is an all day experience. It isn't like you come in, okay, I'm going to speak at 10. You'll be there at 10, and you might be there at 2 or 3 or 4.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to give Helen Kerwin kudos because that is the hardest working woman I think I've.
Well, it's a full-time job.
Yes, very much so.
All right, and Irma says, Chris, it's Texas. The boots and nice jeans will be just fine. And it's true.
I like her.
I dressed in a tie because Robin told me to, and Superintendent Bonnie Kane, the chair of that committee, of our little committee, told me to. And so, okay. The boots and jeans will be just fine. Yeah, it's true. I don't think they'll say, well, I was going to vote against him, but he did dress nice. So it didn't work that way. So, but I would definitely plan to stay overnight. All right. Because unless you really do get to go on early in the afternoon, you're going to be there until past dark. And, the committee I was on, it was basically designed to make sure that the teacher prep programs are doing well. Nancy knows all about this because she had to get her certifications and all that. Yeah. And we had to make sure that, the tests were appropriate. And we also dealt with violations of the code and whatever else. And we met about once a quarter or once every 2 months, depending on what business we had. And when we met in the spring, when the legislature was meeting, first of all, it was really tough to get a decent hotel, which they provided. But it also, if you go and, have supper somewhere downtown Austin, it was jam-packed and a lot of business going on. There's a lot of buzzing going on. So,
here,
go hang out at the Driscoll Hotel. That's the fancy one where all the big shots go. You think? And then Tommy could say, a $300 meal, Mr. Mayor, on the voucher. How does that work? It didn't work that way.
I just pay for my own stuff.
Well, I figured.
I don't like asking for money.
Well, it's just one less thing to have to answer about, right? And
if I want a $300 meal,
yeah,
I won't buy it.
I got $35 in meal money for my trouble, and so and normally it is.
Austin has great food trucks.
Sure, it does. And
I just as soon have a food truck than the $300 meal.
Yeah, right. I don't think I ever spent the $35 because I get there at 8:00 at night and I just go get a hamburger at the bar or, because usually the restaurant by that time at these hotels are closed. It was just bar food. Or I'd go next door. There's a Denny's everywhere.
I know the whole conversation to people is getting boring, but
yeah.
Do you order a steak when you go out?
On business things or just to go out?
No, I won't buy a steak when I go out to eat because you never know what you're going to get, and for what you pay, I can make just as good a steak at home.
That's what Robin tells me. Now, I've heard really good things about a couple steak places like that Station 330.
I did.
Yeah, I've heard, and
I'm not choosing favorites. But
yeah, it's a really good place, and I've heard it's really, really good, and that's the kind of thing I would do like for her birthday. But if we're just going to have steak, I can grill, but
I'd rather fix it at home.
yeah, but sometimes you don't want to mess around with the kitchen and with the grill, and you just go. And so I've heard good things about 330. I've heard as far as other steakhouses.
But we got some good restaurants here. The brewery, Old Texas Brew.
Well,
my God, Fresco! I did 330. I did right. Fresco's got the greatest pasta. I've got a favorite at nearly every one of them.
And that's a really good thing because when Rob and I talk about it, normally, we don't go out that much because we're just homebodies, but it isn't because there's nothing to choose from.
All Grumps and that jalapeno bread.
Robin does like Grumps hamburgers, but she also thinks, hey, you can grill a pretty good hamburger. But it's something like Station 230 is something I would do for an occasion. Hungry. Yeah. But if I just want to go get something to eat, I go to Gina's or our place. And it's not just because they're sponsors, but because I like the food and I know what I'm getting. Is Fresco's. I really like Fresco's. Jaime over there does a really good job, and I like Fresco's.
Our place, our place, chicken and dumplings, and also their breakfast. Yeah, they know how to do their breakfast.
Oh yeah, and there's, so that's one of the benefits of living in this town is like I don't have to go to Fort Worth. That's the only time we eat outside of. Burleson, close your ears, Alex, if you're listening. There's a couple of antique malls Robin likes in Dallas, and so we'll go to Dallas maybe, and we'll eat over there. But as far as Italian,
the one on 30. There's one on 30. It's got a tea room out here.
They all have.
Not
tea
that
rooms.
I've been there. I don't go to tea rooms, but
no, I've been to tea rooms. There's I know which one you're talking about. The one she likes is over near North Park Mall.
It used to be a golf club manufacturing it.
Right. We've been to all of them. And most of them have tea rooms, and and I could pay like $15 for a tuna fish sandwich or whatever, mumble grumble, right? So, but you do those things for the women you love, right? Okay. Yep. How about you, Josh? You do that? Waking up over there.
Tea rooms?
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I think you startled him.
Yeah, I did. He's like, wait, I'm in the middle of Minecraft here. I got a Fortnite game going.
Hold on.
All right, yeah.
No, I do have a job to do. Right. Antique malls or tea rooms? Or
either.
I go thrifting every now and then.
Well, thrifting is not antiquing.
Mall, yeah.
Thrifting is different.
Yeah, it's two different things, but I do go to antique
give
malls.
Me an explanation. What's
thrifting is when you go to like that place on a cart, right? And or Goodwill. And
secondhand clothing.
Secondhand, you buy yourself a $4 shirt. And sometimes they're pretty good shape. I've done it before.
Yeah.
Or go to Harvest House or Rachel's Hope.
Oh,
exactly.
Harvest House retails.
That's what throw that out there. Rachel's Hope has some good stuff. Harvest House has good stuff.
I want to put a second store in Everman.
Yeah,
I think I got a location.
So. Well, I have
Harvest House Everman.
Well, throw on the radio ads. We're getting off the track here. I don't know if you were aware it is, but I hope you were because I put it out there on Facebook, which makes it official. Throw the one on The Journey. Not that one yet. I'll get to that one. The Journey. There you go. 88.3 The Journey. Rich Hooper will be on the show in 2 weeks. And last week we had some coffee over at Black Rifle, which is the first time I've been there. Oh, Sherry Scott says Larry should be back at council next week.
Yes.
Good. But we were going to announce at the end, but I'll do it now.
Cancer free.
That Larry and Alex Phillips and Melissa Mathis all have had good reports. We've been kind of keeping track of them a little bit, so it's a good thing.
Matt Rubisky.
Matt, I did not know that.
Greg Gammon is cancer free.
I didn't know that either, but I did not know about Matt.
That's new news. I just found out this last day or so.
Oh, Matt is an old student of mine.
Really?
Yeah. And I could tell back then he's going to be doing what he's doing.
He had a little heart surgery.
I did not know that.
Went well.
Okay, good.
Isn't our medicine just amazing right now?
It really is. Back to the 88.3 The Journey.
Jerry, tell Larry we missed him.
Okay. They had a shout out today on the station, and so it mentioned your name. Basically, Rich called me and said, "What are you going to have on the show?" And then we talked about 5 minutes, and they edited a little bit. And they gave a shout out to Robin because she likes this station. And what we're doing is, I advertise for him here, and when they get some stuff, I'm going to put it on the radio station, and they're going to do this for me. They're going to promote. They're not going to play the show, but they're going to promote the community-oriented shows. Now, if I have a show where I'm ranting about, Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or whatever else, I might not ask them to promote that. But like this one, or yesterday with Jeff Kelly, next week with the Harvest House. I also have, who do I have? I got to make sure. I know Jennifer Woods and her new enterprise is going to be there, with Roots and Revelations. And come on, pop up. And also on, Shandy Stocksdale with Re-Inspire, which is a group that helps foster kids adjust to adulthood and, when they're coming out of the system and getting them ready. But anyway, so they had a shout out. Robin's excited, they got a name on the radio. So anyway, now you can put community radio on. This will be on tonight. This show we just did is going to be on tonight at 5:00 and tomorrow at 1:00. It's, it's easy to transfer it to the appropriate.
And I'm always available.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor at burlesonTX.com. Send me a phone number if you want to talk.
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
Well, so that way.
I would rather talk than get emails.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
It just the way to go.
Well, it is. It diffuses the situation. I do have a couple other shows coming up. I also put the Chamber of Commerce's new podcast on, The Heart of Commerce with Alyssa and Sarah, or Lucy Nethel, as we call them. And they're silly there too. So, but every time they come on the show, it's like, I'll just sit over here now. We all have fun. But those will be on Wednesday morning at 9:00 and Thursday at 9:00.
Well, I'm proud of your new venture here.
Yeah, let's hope it takes off. It's brick by brick, listener by listener kind of thing. It's going to take a while to become part of the system, but it did same thing with this podcast. It wasn't like the first time I came on.
Also,
viral.
The Texas Transparency Project with Greg Cooper.
Yeah.
That is something that's.
I checked that out. Yes, and I want him to put it on my system on my radio station, but we're negotiating. So
well, he's still learning how to do some of it.
Right? Yeah, and we'll see him in a couple of weeks. And
I think we're going to be doing live. We'll be going to the restaurants at prime time and taking questions.
I can do that if I want to bump up the technology, which also means bump up the money. But right now, I just want to do, recorded stuff and schedule it because, my budget is such. But
You'll get there.
Well, I will eventually, I think. And I also expanded from the last time I did this, like today, this morning, early. For some reason, Live 365 was giving me some issues. So I just jumped on the same station, my station on Odyssey. Popped right up. So I got it besides on Live 365.
You're a regular little techie, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I'm learning how. I'm on Odyssey and TuneIn and Live 365, so that if you can't get one, you'll get the other. All right. Well, I got to let you go because I'm sure you're a very busy man, and I'm not. But anyway, no, I'll be tonight. I have a Chamber of Commerce event I'm going to, so I look forward to that. Over at Stop Restoration. It's not very far from here. Josh, you still awake over there?
Yep.
He just nods his head. They can't see that on the radio.
Yeah, no, we're doing great.
Okay.
When you fall asleep, you don't let your forehead hit the mic.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's why I keep myself on mute.
Okay. But like I said, next week we have 3 shows. And then and a week after that, I look forward to Rich Hooper and I have Colin Gregory, which is always a great show. So anyway, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Sherry, for the good news. Thank you, Jackie, for your participating. Y'all have any questions? Call him. All right, and we'll see y'all next week.